Yo, what's up, high performers and camp believers? Obviously, we have our guest on here, my man Stacey Blunt. What's up, dude?
What's up, man? How are you?
Good. Yo, we were just talking about this, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I got to press record because life updates are always in store when we have a round two. So you just said last time we chatted was in 2019. I
Yes.
think it was like episode 2 or 3 of the Men of Purpose pod,
Yep. The MOP.
right? So a lot has changed since then. So hit me with the life update.
Yeah, man. So since 2019, I think the last time we spoke, I was in Brooklyn, New York, right? And I was just
Yeah.
starting off becoming financially fit. I want to say I was only a couple months in, which is pretty
Yeah.
crazy to think about now. So I started that up in 2019. I did a couple videos and a couple pods, and then you had me on your pod. Thank you guys, right?
Yeah.
You guys had me on the pod early, and this was, I want to say, like you said, somewhere around 2019. And after that, so much changed, right? So
Yo, yes.
COVID happened a couple months later.
Yep.
I ended up getting a new job, ended up moving to LA. And these are all things that I would have probably never done if, COVID didn't happen and, I didn't start becoming financially fit. I got the opportunity to meet a bunch of super, super cool, dope people when I was doing my pod, but it was kind of when it happened, I think I had started in February, right? And I recorded about 10 episodes right before the pandemic hit. But when the pandemic hit, when you're in New York, nobody, excuse me, nobody can go outside. You can't really interact with each other. So it was really, really hard. So I really just started to focus on creating short form videos. And this was back in early 2020 when, looking back at it now, there was the perfect thing to do because everything now is moving towards short form content, especially clips that are like a minute.
Yeah.
So it was honestly, it's been a journey since 2020, but I'm happy I'm here on the pod.
Bro. Yeah, congratulations on the move, man.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to be in LA this next week, so
Gotta link
not
up.
sure what you're doing, but
Gotta link up.
Yo, let's link up.
Definitely.
But yo, congratulations. So, I mean, people are going to have to go back to right before we rebranded, like right at the start of the pod to get a little bit of background. So, obviously, Stacey, with where you're at in New York, you moved to LA. Like, what are you doing now?
So right now I am a investment specialist. And I'm essentially a wealth manager for ultra high net worth individuals and their families.
Yo, how does that feel to say out loud?
honestly, it feels amazing.
I'm telling you, man, like, how does it feel to say out loud?
It really feels cool. And I think the best part about it is the fact that this is something that I've always wanted to do. For one, I love the stock market. I love investing. I love helping people. This job is allowing me to do that all in one, and I get to get paid for it. So honestly, it's super amazing. I'm very happy with where I am right now.
Bro, I mean, we talked a little bit about this the first time you and I chatted, but like seeing a man of color doing what you're doing, man, it's just so special. You doing what you're doing right now, Stacey, like you're a motivation for me, bro. I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing, man.
Absolutely, man. And I think this should become, the norm, right? We should 100%. Have these conversations more and more often, like we do every now and again, or like a lot of people that I've reached within the past couple of years. Like my whole main mission was to just really start the conversation, right? Start having people ask questions about their finances, about their money, about their investments, right? And I think that's the spark. After that, it's really on them to kind of take that next step and actually go do some research or actually go open up an investment account. But, my whole goal is to just start that conversation. And I think it has been started thus far.
So we talked a little bit about this in our first episode, but I think it's worthy of us repeating because one of the things, Stacey, that, I mean, I want to thank you for a lot of the progress that I've made from a financial perspective, because one of the gems that I got from our last conversation was having that conversation. And I think you've probably heard the saying before, most people will talk about sex before they talk about finances.
Yep.
Right. So like, that's just something that people don't talk about. You know what I mean? So like, I know that this is kind of a blanket question, but I would love for you to just try to provide some clarity. So the last time we spoke in 2019, obviously we've had 2 years that most people would love to forget. Me personally, I grew massively during it. So I'm really thankful for what it did for me. And I'm sure it's the same for you. Um, how have people's spending habits, how have people's relationship with money, how has that changed in your eyes from like where you're sitting as you help these individuals gain wealth?
Excuse me. I really think people are more conscious of how they spend money, how they make money. Those are two super, super important things, right? I think before the pandemic, nobody really thought that the world was going to shut down. Nobody thought that bartenders or servers were essentially going to be called non-essential and be out of work, or for people that work at airlines or larger companies to get furloughed and essentially not be fired, but not be paid and not have any type of timeline on when they would get back to work. I think that really opened a lot of people's eyes, and it really told people that, hey, you know what? I can't depend on this job, this singular job, or this singular source of income anymore, right? Because tomorrow it can be taken away and I can be called non-essential. So I think what a lot of people did was they started to take their finances in their own hands for the better, by either starting a side hustle, which, you know, when you're stuck in the house with no job, it's the best thing to do, right? Starting up a side hustle, bringing in some additional income. And I know a lot of people that during the pandemic, they went from either being a server or a bartender or things like that to starting up an online side hustle. And now they're making tens of thousands of dollars a month, right? Going from, you know, just a job that they're making maybe minimum wage plus tips. So I think a lot of people have really come to the conclusion that, hey, I can't really depend on my normal job. I really have to take my finances into my own hands, make my own money, and actually, you know, set up a plan to succeed in the future and not just rely on, let's say, a 401k or, you know, a biweekly paycheck to get by.
I think that's so special because I'm seeing the same thing. I mean, I consider myself extremely lucky that I had already made the jump before it happened, because that's where it really skyrocketed for me. And be it they were good problems to have, problems started arising, and I'm like, all right, I gotta find ways to make sure that this is right. I'm wondering for you, Stacey, as you're someone who is looking, I mean, each person, each portfolio, if you will, is likely different to some extent. But as you're looking at like people's behavior, if you're looking at their habits and their rituals, what are you finding these people that you talked about that needed that side hustle or that massively grew during this time? What sort of habits, rituals, characteristics were you observing? We're like, you know what? This is why these people are being successful.
So, number one is creating that plan, right? And here's the thing.
Clarity.
Exactly. When you're actually creating a plan, let's say I want to, and I'll put this in the easiest example that anyone can understand, right? Let's say I want to lose 10 pounds. What do I need to do? I need to go to the gym every day, right? How do you actually create a habit? You have to do something every day for 30 days straight, right? Once you do that, then you create a habit. If you do it for longer than 30 days, then you start to see results. But what a lot of times what happens when people either go on a diet or start, you know, a budget or start working on their finances is they'll do it for, you know, maybe a couple weeks, but then they'll kind of lay off it a little bit. Exactly. Yeah. Lay off of it a little bit. But like I said, if you're not doing something for 30 days straight, you're not making the habit. And if you're not extending that on for, you know, 60 days, 90 days and actually seeing the results, then it's never going to work for you. And if you keep going back to step one, I think that's, you know, one of the biggest problems and why people really don't like to talk about finances is because it's hard, right? So what I've seen with the successful people is they make it a plan to sit down day in, day out, even if it's for 5 minutes, right? To create that plan. Let's say, okay, you know, what did I spend today? What did I make today? Do I have any bills coming up? That's like the basic thing. You can do that, you know, 5 minutes before you go to sleep. And
everyone has that. Let's get real.
Exactly.
Everyone has
that. Everybody has that 5 minutes. You can do it when you're on the toilet. You know, just everybody has a phone, right? Anything, right? Yeah. So what I've seen is the most successful people, they make a intentional effort to actually set aside time day in, day out to look at their finances. Like I said, their expenses, their income, what bills they have coming up, some of the investments, how they're doing. But they're not trading every day, right? They're not, you know, spending money every day or deliberately going out of the way to, you know, find ways to, you know, save $3 here or $5 there. You know, they're living their normal life as they would, and they're determining how they can actually optimize that by, you know, determining what's coming in, what's coming out, and how to plan for the future in terms of an investment perspective.
Man, I love that. I mean, I didn't even tell you what I wanted out of this, and you already dove into like what you could do in the first 5 minutes of anything. So I love this, bro. I mean, Stacey, for you, like we didn't really get to dive in the last time. You know, right now as we rebranded and changed the messaging, one of the things that has been really, really part of my passion work is telling people's heroes journeys. You know, having someone on and talking a bit more about like what brought them to where they are. I mean, for you, Stacey, like what's been the trajectory for you where you started to go into finances? Because I know for me, growing up in a Latino home, there were two things that we didn't really talk about. One was feelings or conflict, and the other one was finances. Like those are the two things that as brown people, like we just don't talk about, right?
Very
so like
true.
coming from like your perspective, like what brought you to where you are? I mean, something had to happen. I'm super interested.
So I agree with everything you said, right? You know, things like that aren't talked about enough. And I think the flip that switched for me was the fact that I grew up, you know, to humble beginnings. We really didn't have a lot of money, right? We really couldn't do anything we wanted. I had to move around a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And that kind of weighs on you when you're a kid. And you kind of start to ask some questions like, hey, like, you know, why can't I do this? Or, you know, why aren't we allowed to, you know, go these places, right? And it really came down to, hey, you know what? Times are hard. You know, we don't have a lot of money, even though we may be in a nice neighborhood, but, you know, times are really, really hard. So from that point on, I said, hey, you know what? How do you make money? Just, you know,
start asking questions,
being a naive kid, right? just asking the basic question. How do you make money? Right. And I think this is probably one of the craziest things. One of my first jobs or side hustles, right, was two things. I would spend the summers at my grandma's house, right? Be there all day with my friends. And my two first side hustles were mowing grass and shoveling snow in the wintertime, right? During winter break, whatever. And I've told people this story, but I think this is like the real spark, right? So if I wanted to either go out and cut somebody's grass or shovel their driveway, right? I can get paid, let's say 10, 15 bucks, but I could only do maybe 2 to 3 in a day, right? So, you know, when you're a young kid, that's, you know, decent money. You can make maybe 30, 40 bucks.
That's great.
Sometimes more, but I'm going to be dead tired at the end of the day. You know, I have to pay for the gas for the lawnmower, or I have to buy the shovels for the snow, right? But here's what I did when I was a kid. I had 2 lawnmowers and I had 2 shovels. And what I did was, instead of actually going out and doing the work, I said to my friends, hey, I'll pay each and every one of you guys $5.
I love this.
And all you have to do is show up, cut the grass. And because I have 2 either shovels or 2 lawnmowers, we can get it done in literally 20 minutes and we can go on to the next one. Here's what I'll do. I'll go out and I'll set each and every one of the appointments. So all my job was to take my bike.
Wait, hold on. How old are you here?
Honestly, I was young. I was probably maybe like 9, 10 at the time.
What the fuck? All right, keep going.
So what I did was I hopped on my bike, and throughout my grandma's neighborhood, there were a lot of elderly people, so they actually couldn't go out and cut their grass, right? So I would see, somebody that needs their yard cut or their driveway shoveled, and I would say, hey, you know what? We charge $20. We can get you in and out in 20, 30 minutes. What do you say? They said yes. Then I would tell my buddies, here you go. I would keep going down the street. And that process of not actually working for money, but being able to, and at the time, I really didn't know what I was doing. I just thought that, hey, you know what? I have 2 buddies. I'm going to pay them $5 a piece, right? But I get to keep $10, and I do none of the work besides to actually go out and, create the organization.
Young CEO.
Exactly. And if I did this myself, right, I could make, let's say, 30, 40 bucks in a day, right? But if I have somebody else do the work, I can make the equivalent amount of money in a couple of hours, and I do 0 work, physical labor, right? So I think that was when it first sparked for me, and I was like, wait, this happens all the time in everybody's normal day-to-day lives, right? Somebody came up with the idea to start a business, and he hired other people because it's easier for him. He has to do less work, and he gets the lion's share of the revenue, right? And I think that's what really kind of opened my eyes and made me start to think about, how do businesses actually work? And I think that was the spark for me.
That it really puts things in perspective, because I was not thinking about that at 9 or 10. So that's amazing to hear that story.
And here's the crazy thing. It's not like I was thinking about having a business or doing anything. No. I was like, at the time, so broke. I was like, I just want $10. How can I make $10? And I think when you're put into a position where you actually have to make money, or you really, really need to make money, you really get creative with it. And it just so happened that, my creativity generated, a couple of businesses for me and my friends. And throughout that whole summer and throughout the winter time on winter break, we were never broke. And when you're, 9, 10 years old, if you have 20, $30 in your pocket by doing no work, I think you're really onto something.
Bro, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it's funny. I was talking with a friend the other day, and like, we're collaborating on a business venture together, like me and 5 other dietitians. And we were all telling our stories, like when it was time to leave our 9 to 5 and like really work in our side gig as a main gig. And a lot of us had different answers. And my answer was pretty much what you had just said. Like for me, like I needed to make the jump because I needed my back to be against the wall, because I know how I like to operate. Mm-hmm. I don't like to operate from comfort. Like I at first, at least, now I enjoy comfort. Now, like I'm of the same type when it comes to that now. And I might be butchering this piece of content that you had, Stacey, so you can feel free to check me and be like, no, that's not what I said.
Go ahead.
But one of the things I think you had said, the topic of becoming a millionaire, I think, got brought up, and you had said, in order to be a millionaire in your main gig, you also need to have a side gig. Am I butchering that, or
no?
Or is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay,
that is absolutely correct. And I'll go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say, go ahead, like expand on it, because like I remember seeing it and I was like, holy shit, yes.
So when I was interning in college, I was interning at a tax firm, right? And we were doing a bunch of tax work and bookkeeping and stuff like that. And I asked a question, because I had been doing a bunch of work, and I said, hey, like, I don't see any W-2s. Typically, when you do tax work, you see W-2s. And the partner at the time, very knowledgeable guy, said, hey, you know what? We really don't do individuals all that much. We do people that own businesses. So they're not going to have W-2s. They're either going to have 1099s, they're going to have K-1s and things like that. If you have a 1099, that means you're an independent contractor. So you're getting paid from a company, but you do not work for a particular entity. And then if you have a K-1, it means you're a business owner and you're taking profits from the business, right? They look similar to a W-2, but they just show, what you made from a particular investment. And I thought, and I said, well, why do people choose to work and receive a W-2 when the people that have either K-1s or 1099s, they get all their money up front, right? They, can find ways to minimize their taxes in a legal way by, buying equipment or, paying for meals or travel or things like this, right? So he told me something very profound. He said, as an employee, you will never be wealthy. You could be rich and you can be very comfortable, but you can never be wealthy, because the government, as soon as you get to a level where you're making some serious income, the government's going to come and take 50% of it, right? So even if you are making a significant amount of money, let's say your salary is $1 million. By the end of the year, with taxes from a state level, a federal level, and a local level, and then Social Security, Medicaid, and all that type of stuff, right? You're really only coming home with about $500K. And at that point, I'm imagining, you probably want to live in a decent area. And there's a lot of things that, actually play into making $1 million salary. But let's say you have $1 million side hustle, where instead of only getting 500,000, you get $1 million up front. And you have the option, you have a whole year and a couple months to determine how best to optimize that income in order to essentially pay 0 to no taxes on it. Or if you own a $1 million, let's say, rental business, all of that money can be used to pay down the mortgage on it. So there's so many ways outside of your normal job to become wealthy. But if you just stay in your job, no matter what, even if you're a CEO, you always have a boss, right? That's the board of directors.
Yes.
The board of directors has to listen to the shareholders, right? And the shareholders, they're tens of millions of people, right? So when it really comes down to it, I highly, highly advise everybody to start something, a side hustle that even if it's not making money, just do it because you like it. Pick up a hobby, turn a camera on, and start
100%.
doing it. You'll be very surprised how many people will find an audience for what they're doing. And if they can find a way to monetize that, then I honestly think they would probably be better off focusing on that full time rather than their job. But in the meantime, everybody needs to pay bills, right? So I'm not saying quit your job, start a side hustle. I'm saying exactly. I'm saying in tandem, what you need to do is start up that side hustle, build the infrastructure, get the foundation in place, and then scale it to the next level.
Yeah. Bro, I love that because that's right in line with a lot of our listeners. So a lot of our high-level, high-performing listeners are either entrepreneurs themselves, they're starting a side gig, or they're looking at a second career in entrepreneurship because they recognize that this 9-to-5, like, not only is it not paying enough, but I also hate it and I hate who I am in it. So this is right in line with conversations that we've had in the past and conversations that we'll continue to have. I want to talk, Stacey, about like the big topic that's on everyone's mind right now, and one that I felt like you did a fantastic job of breaking down, because to me, I'm no financial expert. I hire out people like yourself to do that because that's just not my strength. Mm-hmm. So in regards to the recession, can we talk about that? Can we talk about what that means? Can we talk about if you feel like we are in it currently, and if we're heading to it? Let's kind of bring that up, because that's the main reason why I was like, yo, I got to talk to Stacey again.
So I would say, yes, we are currently in a recession by definition. And essentially what a recession is, aside from what everybody else thinks it is, from a definition standpoint, it's when US GDP decreases for 2 consecutive quarters, right? Okay. And when that happens, then we're in a technical recession, right? It might not seem like it now because things, for the most part, are normal. People are, have jobs. They haven't really been laid off. They're able to, go out and buy a house. At least they were a year ago. And everything seems normal now, right? Because we're just beginning the cycle of a recession. And a recession creeps up on you, right? It's not like on day one of July 1st, 2022, we're in a recession and, everything crumbles. It takes a while to actually show its effects, which is why I was trying to prepare people and tell them that, hey, this is upcoming. Here's the types of things that you should be doing in order to prepare for a recession, right? Because along the way, you're going to start to see more layoffs, more job cuts. People are not going to be, buying homes like they were for the past couple of years, right? There's going to be a slowdown and a contraction in the U.S. Economy because the Federal Reserve, is increasing interest rates. And they're increasing interest rates to slow down the economy and also to kind of curtail inflation. So I know that that's a lot, but here's what I'll say. If you're really trying to prepare for the recession, here are 5 quick and easy things that you can do to kind of put yourself in a better position than, I want to say, 99% of the other population here in the United States. The first is going to be creating an emergency fund. This is like fundamental, basic, number one thing. And there's going to be 3 tiers to this emergency fund, right? The first tier are going to be for the beginners. Save $1,000, right? If you can actually get to a point where you can save $1,000 and have that set aside as your emergency fund, you're in a better position than, I want to say, 85% of the U.S. right now. Because there's a statistic out there that says 65% of Americans with full-time jobs could not afford a $400 to $600 expense. If it came up, let's say you need to go get a new car battery or a washer or dryer or anything like that. That's staggering, right? But if you have that $1,000 set aside, you're better off than a lot of the population, right? That's, tier number 1 of your emergency fund. Tier number 2 is going to be saving 3 to 6 months of monthly expenses. So let's say with your rent, your phone bill, your car, everything that you need to spend money on, let's say it costs you $2,500 a month, right? In order to have 3 to 6 months set aside, you need to have that set aside in a savings account that you really can't touch. So something like a Marcus Online or Ally Bank or something like that, right? But for somebody who's, not making that much money, 2,500 times 3, that's a significant amount. That's $7,500 sitting in a savings account that you're not using, that you're saving for emergencies. And that's only 3 months, right? And I know a lot of people's bills, especially if you live in like a New York or Miami or in LA, significantly higher than that, right? So getting to a point where they can actually put that money aside and not touch it, it's going to be tough. But if you do it now, I guarantee it's going to help you out a lot. Third tier of that emergency fund is 6 to 12 months. That's when you are really financially independent. And it wouldn't matter, if you lost your job today, you'd be good for 6 to 12 months after the fact. Next step would be creating that monthly budget. This could be as detailed as you want it to be or as simple as you want it to be. And the monthly budget is going to track your income, it's going to track your expenses, and it's going to track your upcoming bills. That's it. It's super basic. You're going to have one column for income, one column for expenses, and at the bottom, you're going to show if you have either a monthly net income or a net deficit. If you have a net deficit, that means you're spending more money than you're bringing in. If you have a net income, that means you have savings left over at the end of the month that you can actually use to invest or to save or to go to, doing something better than just, spending it on BS. What this budget also helps you to pinpoint is things where you can cut back on, whether that's Netflix, whether that's, you go out a couple of times during the month to get dinner instead of getting groceries. Everything that's laid out in this budget is going to help you determine how to live a better life. And it's crazy how this works, because when you're looking at a monthly budget, you're essentially looking at your behavioral finance in a spreadsheet, which a lot of people don't think about, right? And it's literally if you look at anybody's monthly budget, you can describe them as a person, but just by what they spend their money on, right? So I think looking at it from a different perspective, instead of just saying, okay, here's what I make, here's what I spend, but saying, what type of person am I? By looking at that monthly budget, you can really determine a lot about yourself, right?
Yeah.
So that's number 2. I would say for number 3, and we just talked about this earlier, start having either a side hustle or a side job, right? And if you start that now, I guarantee it's going to help, because what happens during a recession, right? People get laid off. A lot of layoffs happen, right? And it could be anybody. It could be me. It could literally be anybody. But if you don't have a side hustle in place that's already generating you income, or some other streams of income that you can actually rely on, or that emergency fund set up, you're going to be shut out of luck, right? And this isn't something I want to have people, in this position, right? So that's why if you're starting up a side hustle now, I think this is kind of what the situation that you were in, right? Where you were starting up a side hustle. You said, hey, you know what? I'm at a point right now where I can make the jump, and it's my decision, right? It's not their decision. I think that's the point where a lot of people need to get to. Number 4, eliminating those unnecessary monthly expenses. That budget is, excuse me, your budget is going to help you do that. And it's going to be a good indication of, okay, I can just go through the list, check off a couple boxes, and I can save myself $100, $200 a month. All right. That's going to be something that you can do quick and easy. It's not going to take a lot of time. You can do it, in the last week of the month and say, okay, here's where all my money went. Next month, I'm going to, eliminate these boxes, and I'm going to save $200. That $200 can be then put into an investment account. Instead of spending $200, I'm investing $200. And now that investment is going to generate money for me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Number 5, and this is a big one. This is something that honestly I've told to a lot of people, and this is invest 10% of everything you make. And it seems easy, but hear me out. When you invest 10% of everything you make, I'm not just talking about 10% of what you make from your job, right? I'm talking about 10% of everything. If somebody owes me $10, I'm investing $1 of it. If I get a $100 gift card, I'm investing 10% of it. If, I get any type of bonus or tax return or any type of windfall money, including what I get from my normal 9-to-5 job, I'm investing 10% of it. Flat out, there's no budging. I'm investing 10% of everything I make. And when you get into this habit, you learn to live on less than you're making. because you're living on only 90% of the money that you're actually bringing in. And this is all of your money, right? A lot of people take their entire paycheck and they budget it out. But if you invest 10%, pay yourself first 10% of everything that you make. Now you're forced to budget on that remaining 90% of the money that you make, right? You then, if you can plan that out, not only will you be building money and investments along the way, but now you know how to live below your means. And if you can live below your means, you can really do anything you want, especially if you have those streams of income coming in on the side.
Yo, I don't know if you prepped for this, but goddamn, that was amazing.
Hey, man, I'm trying to help people. I'm trying to give out all the information I can. Bro. And I just want, if I can help one person, honestly, my job is done. And I think laying it out in this type of way where, normal people like me and you can understand this is, hey, if you do a couple of these things, it's not hard. It's not like I'm saying climb a mountain or, do 1,000 sit-ups. I'm just saying, hey, create a budget, save 10%, right? Do these simple things, and I guarantee you will become a wealthy individual over time.
Man, there's so much into what you had just talked about that is so damn special, because I think oftentimes a lot of the stories that a lot of us tell ourselves is, well, I have to make money, I have bills to pay and things like that. But even just in the 5 that you just talked about is taking on the side hustle. Like anyone and everyone can do that. And I think
that's something that they can do today. Absolutely.
Exactly. And I think that part, Stacey, out of the 5 things that you just talked about, I think that's the special part. And that's the special ability to apply these things, man. So, dude, I didn't know you were going to come with fire like this. This is amazing.
Hey, man, I came on the pod. I had to. How could I not?
I know, bro. I know. Well, Stacey, man, I appreciate your time so much, bro.
Absolutely.
I didn't get to ask you this last time, but I do want to ask you the same question that we ask all of our guests on here for the Can't Believe I Made It pod. Let's start it here. Have you made it? And if not, what does making it look like for you?
I have not made it. I'll be the first to admit it. But I'm happy with that, because for me, the fun is in the journey. Everything I've learned up until this point has helped to prepare me to be the person I am. And I think the fact that the point where I think I've made it is when not only can I live a beautiful life and not think about my finances as much as I do today, I think when I get to that point, then I want to be in a position where I can help people get to the same point that I was at or I am at. That's when I think I've made it. When not only do I not have to worry about my finances, I can also help empower other people to get to, the point where I am as well.
Bro, that's passion work right there. Shit, man.
Hey, it's a tough journey, but I can't wait to get there.
Yeah. And I think the whole process too of you saying like falling in love with the journey, I think is just so damn special. And it's something that a lot of our other high level people who have been on here telling their hero's journey, providing value and things like that have all said. So I think that part is special. So I want to make sure our community hits you up with the follow, like really gets into your ideas and your purpose behind what you're doing, Stacey. So where can people find you, man? If you have any other things that you're promoting right now, like how can we support you, dude? Because
absolutely, man.
I mean, I knew you were going to come in with fire, but like, damn, bro.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for having me on your platform. You're doing amazing work. I love the content that you're putting out. You're a great, you're a great dad as well. Getting into some of my personal information, you can find me everywhere on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or YouTube at Becoming Financially Fit or Becoming F Fit as the name. Just look me up. I have a lot of content out there. Like I said, I've been making content for the past couple of years. And the best part about my content is that everything is free. I do not charge for anything. I will never charge for anything. My goal in my journey is to get the message out, because if I can help one person, then my job is done.
I love that. Well, shit, Stacey, when we press done here, let's link up. Cause like I said, I'm going to be in your city
Absolutely.
This next week, man. So it'd be great to collab. So for all of our listeners out there, make sure that you head over there. All of his information will be in the show notes. We'll be pushing a lot of our conversation out here on TikTok. I didn't know you were on TikTok, so I'm giving you a follow right now.
Let's do it.
That's by far my favorite platform right now, by the way.
It is.
Yeah. But yeah, so far, all of our listeners out there, Pod family, make sure you give this man a follow. Much love to you all. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.